Hey, welcome to Conversations with Beer Bloggers. Today we meet Nick McCormac of Drink Blog Repeat, and we learn a little bit about South Carolina beer and why he takes pictures of beer and cats. Hey Nick, thanks for joining Conversations with Beer Bloggers.
Thanks for having me. And thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, so how did you get into craft beer?
Well, I guess my story kind of started like a lot of other folks. Back in college, really didn't have a whole lot of experience or exposure to beer other than Bud Light, Miller Lite, all that kind of jazz. Really didn't drink beer much in general. I was more of a liquor, wine kind of guy when I was of legal drinking age. But in South Carolina, back in 2005, we had this thing called Pop the Cap SC. And that was spearheaded by Jamie and David, the owners of the Coast Brewing Company down in Charleston. And what they tried to do is they tried to increase the maximum ABW cap on beer in the state above 5%. 5% ABW is about 6.25% ABV. And they finally got that passed in 2007. And after that point, I forgot what it got up to. Now it's up around 14% ABW, which is like 70.5% ABV. So we get ridiculously high stuff. But after Pop the Cap, we were actually able to get more beer in South Carolina. And that meant more breweries started distributing some of the folks that we didn't have before. And I turned 21 in 2006. So 2007, when the ball really got rolling, I was of legal drinking age, so I could actually go out and experience this stuff a lot more legally. And the one thing that I remember, my kind of gateway moment was hearing folks talk about Magic Hat. Magic Hat had just come to South Carolina, and people were going crazy about it. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody excited about beer. Now, usually, you go to parties and folks are like, "Oh, great, you bought the suitcase of Natty Light, now we can party." This was like true excitement and passion about beer, and I didn't really understand it. Went out, found a pack of number 9, had it. It's like, this is not like anything I've had before. And that was what really got the ball rolling for me. Not soon long after that, I found out about Sweetwater. I'm originally from Northeast Georgia. So when I found out that there was a brewery in Atlanta, I thought it was awesome. So I went out and picked up 420, which is still today one of my favorite beers. And that really kind of did it in for me. After that, I kind of had a lot more of an appreciation for local stuff, the style of craft. I started out with pale ales and extra pale ales and stuff like that. And that really got the ball rolling for me. And I think that was pretty much my first big gateway experience, having that starting point of seeing people being passionate about it and then feeling like I could take pride in something that came from where I was from.
Mm-hmm. So when you started to get passionate about it, was that when you started to blog?
No, I didn't start blogging until about 2 years ago. I think it's about 2 years ago at this point. I've got a degree in journalism. I graduated from University of South Carolina back in 2009. I've got a background in newspapers. I was there for about 3.5 years in that industry. And I'd always had a passion for writing. It kind of just came naturally to me. And funny enough, the origin of the blog was in my parents' basement. My wife and I had gone back home. Like I said, I'm from Northeast Georgia. For Sweetwater's 15th anniversary party, which was a couple of years back. And I just kind of got the bug. I don't remember what started it. And I was just sitting in my computer down in our basement talking, and she said, "You know what, you should go for it." So I started up a Tumblr account. I think the original name was Nick Needs Another Beer, which was a joke amongst my friends since I was always going out and buying new stuff and trying new things. So that lasted for about an hour before I realized that wasn't a really good blog name. And I don't remember how Drink Blog Repeat came about. I think it was more something like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to drink, I'm going to write about, I'm going to do it again. Hey, there we go. And that's how that got started. About a year or so ago, up to that point, I was doing more reviews, stuff like I'm going out and doing this, opinion pieces. I wanted a place where I could just kind of put it out there and let folks know what I was thinking and try to get that interaction going on. And then about a year ago, I started doing a lot more news posts. Columbia, back in the fall of last year, there were rumblings that we were finally getting a brewery. And I knew the guys that did it, so I started doing some posts about that, and I saw my traffic tick up. And then I got to know friends at some local breweries, so I started doing more news, and my traffic just went exponentially more and more. And I looked about, and I realized there really wasn't an outlet for South Carolina beer news online. And I just said, I guess I'll kind of switch my focus. I'll do reviews too, but I'll start doing a little more news. And after that, it really just kind of took off. And as I did more news posts, I got to become closer with folks at breweries. I felt more invested in the community. I got to know a whole lot more people. And I could see that the stuff I was putting out there had an effect. People would come to me and say, I didn't even know this was happening. I didn't know so-and-so was doing this. And I realized that that was an outlet that people didn't have before that they really, really wanted. And since then, I've grown to, I think, become one of the largest beer blogs in the state. Possibly, I don't want to sound egotistical or like I'm tooting my own horn, but I think one of the more influential and one of the more widely read. And it's really humbling to see how that's kind of come about. And now I feel like I have a role in it, and I'm even more invested, and that just kind of has grown from there for past year or so.
Mm-hmm. You are my source for South Carolina beer news. And I was talking to Carla, the beer babe, a couple weeks ago, and she's my source for Maine beer news. So I'm starting to find all these bloggers, like one from each state that I really trust all my news sources from. So, and you are South Carolina for me.
And I get that a lot from folks. And again, it's really humbling. I hate to have an ego about it, but it's so crazy when people come up to me. There was a few events I was at in Greenville a couple of weeks ago, and I had folks come to me. I was wearing a shirt with a logo on it. I had a few people come up and say, "Thank you for doing what you do. I love it, and I check it out every day." And it's kind of like, I'm just a dude that writes stuff on the internet. I really don't feel like I'm that special or important, but to other people, they feel that I am, and I really am humbled by it. So it's nice to hear stuff like that, and it's not just locally. It's around the world or across the country or whatever, to get news out there, because again, we didn't have that outlet. And when people think about South Carolina beer, they may not know a whole lot about it. They find out about the blog and they realize, wow, there's a really burgeoning scene here. And so it's not just getting a local focus, it's more putting us on the map, which I hopefully can play a role in somewhat.
Yeah, so can you pitch South Carolina beer for me?
It's really hard to put us, I guess, in an elevator pitch, but I definitely consider South Carolina kind of an underdog regionally. Right above us, we've got North Carolina, which has Charlotte, and Asheville, obviously, which is a beer mecca. In Georgia, right next to us, we've got Sweetwater, which is one of the biggest breweries in the region and the country. In Florida, we've got places like Cigar City and Funky Buddha and these places that are really kind of coming up. And so we're kind of, for a while, we were just kind of lost in the mix. And things have really been changing in the past year. Holy City won a gold medal for the Pluff Mud Porter at GABF last year. Mexican Cake, the Imperial Stout that Westbrook does, is a nationally sought-after beer, and that's insane. And I definitely would say that we are the underdog, but we've got a lot of stuff coming up that is going to put us on the map. Like I said, Holy City is a big one. This year alone, we'll have 4 breweries come online. Quest opened a couple weeks ago. Later this fall, we have Brew 85. Those are both in Greenville. Conquest opened up in Columbia earlier this year. And next year, we've already got 3 coming online. There will be River Rat in Columbia. There will be Swamp Rabbit in Traveler's Rest, and the Old Charlestown Brewery in Charleston. And now that we have the pint law, which allows South Carolina breweries to serve more than 4 4-ounce samples per person per day, that really gets a lot more people interested in the business. I know of at least a couple other folks who are looking to open something locally, and that's great. So going back to the original question, get off a tangent, but I would say we are the underdog, but we have a whole lot coming up that I think is really going to surprise and impress folks, not only in our region, but probably countrywide.
So what's in your beer fridge right now?
A lot of this. This is Westbrook's Goza. It's a 4%, as they describe it, German-style wheat beer brewed with coriander and salt. Up until recently, they had only bottled it and had on draft, and a couple of months ago, there were rumors started swirling that they were going to can it, and it's probably the best summer beer I've had, the best lawnmower beer, the best shower beer, anything you could ascribe to that kind of style. It's perfect. It's sweet and salty, and you can drink a 6-pack of it and not feel too bad about yourself or too bad the next morning. So I've got a lot of that because that just came out a couple of weeks ago. I've also got One Claw, which is the new rye pale ale, canned pale ale from Westbrook as well. Was lucky enough to pick up a 6-pack of Palmetto's Pale Ale last week. Palmetto is the oldest brewery in South Carolina, down Charleston. And then I've got some other things. I've got Funky Buddha, and I've got some Boulevard, and some Sierra Nevada, and some mixed things here or there. But again, funny enough, mostly South Carolina beer.
Of course, you have to represent it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Nick, where can people find you?
I'm all over the place. The granddaddy, the main hub is, of course, drinkblogrepeat.com, which you should visit frequently. I'm also on Twitter at drinkblogrepeat. I have a Facebook page, which I started not too long ago. That is drinkblogrepeat. No periods in that, just drinkblogrepeat. Instagram, I usually post photos of whatever I'm drinking or where I'm out and about. That is also drinkblogrepeat. I have a penchant for tastings and bottle shares to try to take artsy photos of what I'm drinking. Follow a lot of folks that do that. So it's either that or pictures of my cat. I feel like I'm Brian on that front. It's beer or cats, more or less. But those are the main spots you can find me in.
Great. Nick, thank you so much. You were a great interview.
Thanks for having me, man.